everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and happy Wheel of Time Wednesday. Yes, this news came out yesterday from Wotseries.com. They dropped a bombshell in the fandom, and it was much needed. It's been a very long time since we've heard anything about the Wheel of Time at all. I think the last thing we heard was from Rafe Judkins when he did sort of an AMA on a podcast for Empire magazine, and he said we wouldn't be seeing the show Season 2 for quite some time. We've all speculated on what that meant, but we haven't had any official word whatsoever, so these leaks are absolutely amazing, and we're going to pour over them in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what we do here, we cover Wheel of Time show news, so anything and everything to do with Sony and Amazon's production, that's what we do. Rumors, leaks, official news, castings, all of that stuff. We cover that here, as well as put out some great Wheel of Time content. So if you like that sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. For all your other fantasy news, I did start a second channel, and we talk about all kinds of other fantasy elements over there. The link to that channel is down below in the description box. I'm currently going to go through the Lord of the Rings cast in the next week or so, so if you like that sort of stuff, you'll find that there. Now, before we get into the video, spoiler warning, in this video we're talking about certain elements of Season 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So if you haven't read at least the first 3 books of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series, that's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn, and you haven't seen the first series of the Sony and Amazon show, be forewarned, I'm going to ruin small plot points and character arcs from all of that. I'm also going to talk just a little bit about the prequel novella, New Spring, so if you haven't read that, I'm going to ruin some minor points from that as well. Alright, all of that being said, let's get on to the video. Yesterday, Wotseries.com released an article about Gary Beech and the role he'll be playing in Season 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. Now, I've left a link to that article down below in the description box if you folks want to give it a read when you're done the video. Now, if you don't know who Wotseries.com are, they are a fantastic source of Wheel of Time news, and they get all sorts of exclusives and leaks, and they haven't been wrong yet, so make sure you bookmark their page and check back often. Now, Gary Beech is a UK-born actor who's been acting for almost 40 years. I think his first acting gig was in '84, and he's probably best known for his stint on EastEnders. Now, his name sort of got thrown around the Wheel of Time fandom last July as a rumor that he would be shown in Season 1 as a cast member of some sort. Nobody really knew who the role was. There was no real concrete proof. I think the rumor actually started due to the fact that he used the Wheel of Time hashtag in his Twitter bio as one of the roles he was playing. Now, when Season 1 came in November, there was a lot of excitement around it, and then it left in December. We still hadn't seen Gary. Now, we didn't forget about him, but he was kind of pushed to the back of our minds. Recently, he started interacting with some of the other actors and actresses that are actually playing characters in Season 2, and wolf emojis were used. Specifically, he was talking with the character that's playing Ingtar. And that fueled a lot of rumors and a lot of fire that he might be playing a wolf brother in the show, but nobody really knew for sure. Wotseries.com basically uncovered his CV, and on the CV it says he's playing Elyas. Now, if you don't know who Elyas Machera is, Elyas is a wolf brother that Perrin and Egwene meet in Book 1, The Eye of the World. Now, we didn't get to see him at all in the show in the first season, but we're going to see him in Season 2, so that fuels a lot of speculation on what this character could actually be, because we all know they are amalgamating a ton of characters. Liandrin, for one, is an amalgam of a bunch of different Aes Sedai, so is Alana. There's 2,782 named characters in the Wheel of Time, and they're not going to get away with showing them all on screen, so they're probably going to compress a bunch of them into certain characters. So my guess is we're going to see some sort of amalgam when Elyas gets on screen. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. Alright, so Elyas Machera is kind of a cool character. We're going to talk about 2 different types here. We'll talk about the book character first, then we'll talk about how I think he's going to be portrayed in the show. Now, in the book, he was born in Tyr and then traveled to Shinar to become a soldier. While there, he basically was bonded by Rena, an Aes Sedai, and became a warder, which would be a cool story in itself, but he also knew and trained Lan for a little bit when Lan was very young. That makes him infinitely cooler in my mind. Then when he started showing his wolf brother abilities and tendencies, the Red Aja decided that he was channeling the One Power and they tried to gentle him. Of course, it didn't work because he wasn't actually channeling and he couldn't do any of the things that they thought he could, but it pissed him off and he ended up escaping and killing a bunch of warders in the process. Now, it's been speculated that Rena helped him escape because, let's face it, an Aes Sedai can compel their warder to do whatever they want through the bond, but she masked the bond and let him run off into the wilderness to live his own life. From there, we meet him in the Eye of the World, in between the events of Shadar Logoth and the White Cloak attack. So when Perrin and Egwene are on the road by themselves, they're kind of starving, they're in the forest, they don't know what they're doing. He meets them, he feeds them, sort of saves them, leads them to the Tinkers, and he's also the one that lets Perrin know that he can speak with the wolves. Now, let's face it, Perrin was born with the ability, so he probably would have showcased it at some point or another anyway, but Elyas was a guide. He showed him that it was possible and that he could do it, which is pretty neat. Now, After the events of the White Cloak attack, Elyas was injured, and then we don't see him for a number of books, although he does factor very heavily in some of the parent storylines much later on in the series. So there is a gap there. Let's remember that. Now, in the show, I think it's going to be just a little bit different. Alright, so we didn't see Elyas at all in Season 1, and Perrin sort of started his wolf brother journey on his own. He growls a bit, he's got yellow eyes, he's a little friendly with wolves, and he's scared of it. That's all we know so far. There's really not a whole lot has been explained. So we need someone to explain that stuff so the audience understands what's going on. That's where Elyas comes in. Now, one thing the Wheel of Time books were really good at was inexperienced point of views. So you have the chapters from different characters' point of views, and they don't know anything. So things have to be explained to them, which in turn is explained to the audience. Season 1 of the Wheel of Time show kind of went away from that since Moiraine was the main character, so a lot of stuff never got explained. It was just sort of assumed that you knew what was going on. If you read the books before or are a big fan of the series, you could understand some things, but some of the audience, especially non-book readers, were a little confused or were hoping it would be explained much later. Amazon kind of doubled down, put some things in X-ray and extra bonus things and stuff like that to explain certain things, but not everyone watches that sort of stuff. So I think if they use Elyas to explain the Wolf Brother stuff to Perrin during Season 2, it'll be a big step forward in how the story's progressed, at least for the viewers anyway. Now, a theory I've had for quite some time, and a very popular fan theory right now, is the fact that he's going to be combined with another character, most notably Huron. Now, Huron is a sniffer who basically tracks the Horn, Fane, the Dark Prince, and the Trollocs during the Great Hunt. And that's because he can smell violence. So he knows where violence has happened, he knows where it will be in some instances, and he can track very inherently violent creatures like Trollocs. So he's the one that leads the party on the hunt for the Horn. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to kind of combine his character with Elyas, and we'll have Elyas use the wolves to track where the Horn is, where the Trollocs are, and that leads the party on the route for the Horn. Now, Perrin will be with them, of course, and I think at that point he'll be explained his abilities, and he'll start to come into the zone, maybe talk with the wolves a little bit, and sort of take over the hunt in certain instances, which is pretty neat. Now, we're going to go back to that big gap. Now, I've talked about this earlier on in the video. There's a big gap in the book series from when we see Elyas last in the Eye of the World to when he comes back. And then he does factor very heavily into Perrin's stories much later, but there's a long time there in between. Now, it's really hard for a show to take an actor and go, we want you for one season, and then come back 5 seasons later. It's not entirely impossible, it happens a lot, but it would be a lot easier for them to take Elyas, use him for 1 season, and then say, okay, you're done, don't come back. So we've heard rumors that there are a couple notable deaths in the 2nd season, especially of characters that make it to the last battle. I think Elyas may be one of them. At the very least, it makes sense for him to be killed off at some point during the 2nd season, because he doesn't come back until much, much later. Or, hear me out here, they could do sort of a cliffhanger thing like they did in Season 1. Now, I know a lot of people were not popular of all the fake-out deaths they did during Season 1, and there were a lot of them, but if they did that, it gives them the ability and it opens the possibilities for Gary Beech to come back much later as Elyas, especially if he becomes such a fan favorite that I think he's going to be. Because let's face it, I can't wait to see this man with a giant beard, like it's just a huge, massive woodsman's beard, talking to the wolves on screen with his yellow eyes. I think it'll be absolutely amazing. Anyway, let me know what you folks think in the comments down below. What do you think of Gary Beech as Elyas? What do you think of my theories about how they're going to amalgamate the characters together and how he'll be perceived and shown in the 2nd season? And do you think he's going to make it out of the 2nd season alive, or do you think they'll do a fake out death and maybe he'll come back much later, or will he become a series regular? I have no idea. Give me your thoughts down below in the comments. Now, before I go, I just want to mention a couple of different things. The first one being, I want to thank you all so very much for making the channel such a big success. When I first started this thing, I didn't think I would get 10 or 100 subscribers. Now I'm up to almost 18,000. We're on our way to 20,000, and I'm really excited for that, and I'm really, really happy. I would not have been able to do any of this without you folks at all, so thank you so very much. The second thing I want to mention is the Watt Parody Song Contest. You've probably seen me on Twitter, or the Dusty Wheel, or Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern talking about it, but if you don't have social media, we're doing it again. Last year we did it. It was a whole lot of fun. It was shown on the Dusty Wheel. Basically what it is you can take a popular song, make a parody of it, a Watt parody, and submit it. There's a whole bunch of really great prizes. We do sort of a round robin thing where we have it on the Dusty Wheel and people vote for their favorite songs. It's a really good time. It's going to happen over a couple of weeks later on in March, and you have until March 15th to get your submissions in. So if you're musical even a little bit, I'd love to link to the form down below where all the rules are and how to submit the song. Please do so. We've had 4 or 5 submissions so far, and they're really great. Last year we had some really, really fantastic ones, and I can't wait to see what you folks come up with this year. All right, thank you so much for sticking with me here to the very end, and here's to many more.